You are listening to the I Choose My Best Life podcast with Dr. Saundra Dalton-Smith, a show that is dedicated to helping you live fully, love boldly, and rest intentionally. For additional resources, visit ichoosemybestlife.com.
How can you keep your energy, happiness, creativity, and relationships fresh and thriving in the midst of never-ending family demands, career pressures, and the stress of everyday life? Learn about best-selling book Sacred Rest and discover the 7 types of rest you need most by visiting restquiz.com. Welcome, everyone. This is Dr. Saundra. You're listening to I Choose My Best Life podcast. Today, we're going to talk about the role of love in how we deal with our relationships. And I have with me today love language linguist Paul Zolman to share with us his approach to the 5 love languages. So, Paul, thank you so much for joining me. And I love that we are getting to go deeper into this topic because I think most people are familiar with Dr. Gary Chapman's 5 love languages, but you've taken an extra step with that. And part of that is a interactive approach that you call the role of love. Let me begin by just having you share a little bit about your journey. How did you get to the point of wanting to dive deep into this? And then we'll go deeper into what your strategy is.
Thank you, Dr. Saundra. It's a pleasure to be on your show with you today. It came as a midlife crisis, and in a midlife crisis are at a crossroads to make a decision one way or another. And in that midlife crisis, for me, the decision was, how do I stop being critical, and how do I start being more loving? I was raised in a critical environment and learned how to be critical. In fact, Dr. Saundra, I thought that I would be the best movie critic ever because of how critical I grew up. But I hated sitting there for 2 or 10 or 5 hours watching movies. I couldn't do it. So I thought, that's not going to work, to be a critic of movies. And I thought, you know what? Maybe it's better not to be critical. And that midlife crisis is when I made that decision. I don't want that life anymore. I do not want to look at what's wrong with people. I don't want to look at their faults. I don't want to look at their mistakes. I don't want to look at their weaknesses anymore. And I realized that, Dr. Saundra, that's maybe 10, maybe 20% of their personality. I was missing 80 to 90% that was good. I was missing all that. And my whole life up until that time, I thought, how do I turn that around? So I thought that criticism is on the angry side of a spectrum. If you had anger on one side and love on the other side, it's really on the angry side of the spectrum. So what would be the opposite of criticism? Compliments. Kindness, love, just genuinely sharing what you like about that person with that person would be on the opposite end. And I wasn't even there. I wasn't even close to being there. So I started reading books like The Color Code and the 5 Love Languages. And with that, I really liked the principles of the 5 love languages, but I was single at the time and it wasn't working. I said, Dr. Chapman, who in the heck am I supposed to love? I don't have that significant other that you're talking about. And I just thought about it for a day and then realized, oh, I get to love everybody. And with that, it was absolutely perfect for me because I needed an absolute change, look away from that criticism, look the opposite direction to what's right. So if you put what's wrong on one side and what's right on the other side, they're 2 different directions, and you can't look both directions at the same time unless you're two-faced. And I did not want to be two-faced. Nobody wants to be two-faced. So I decided I'm going to focus on this love the principles, but it's like a guessing game. If I guess what your love language is, and if I cater to that, we're going to be buddies. I'm a really bad guesser, and it wasn't working up until that time. The second thing Dr. Chapman has, if you take this survey, then you can find out what your primary love language is. What am I supposed to do with that, Dr. Saundra? Advertise? Hello, Dr. Saundra. I'm gifts. What do you have for me today? So awkward. That wasn't working for me either. So I'm being raised in that critical environment, I couldn't see it. I couldn't see the love. I couldn't see what are the processes of expressing love in a kind and an appropriate way. Just still wasn't seeing it. It was ingrained almost. It was generational passed down. I could see that my father had the same habit of being annoyed, stacking his annoyances on top of one another until you get to the top. Then you have this blow up of anger, and then you go back down and you start stacking again. And then it's a cycle that I wanted to break that cycle. So with that, I thought, I'm going to contact Dr. Chapman. I have an idea. I'm going to contact Dr. Chapman. So I emailed him, and after a couple of weeks, his attorney wrote back, and I was asking them if he'd licensed those just little icons, because I had an idea that I wanted to use the icons for. And his attorney wrote back, said, no, we're not doing any licensing like that at this point in time. I was actually glad, but the pictures were really old. They're from early 90s when the book was first published, and it just wouldn't fit. So I talked to a copyright attorney in my neighborhood, a friend, and he said this. He said, theory, like the love language theory, is not copyrightable. Application is. So they weren't doing it as a game. I remember games bringing my family together, even as dysfunctional as the family was. I remember that game bringing our family together when I was younger. I thought maybe this can bring love together, or bring people that are loving together in that way. And I thought, so he said it would be okay to make it a game. So that's exactly what it did. Created my own icons and created a game of it. It's a very simple game. Just a die that has the love languages on it. There you see a hand holding an hourglass that represents time. Hand, it looks like a waiter holding a platter representing service. The Taylor Swift heart that she sends out to all people that she loves in her audience. This one is a little bit different because it has a conversation fly out from that heart. So this would be the words from the heart. Two hands touching one another for touch. And then the last love language of gifts, hand holding a gift. 5 love languages, 6 sides on the cue. The last one is a hand holding a question mark. That question mark is surprise me. So there's just 2 instructions. You roll the dice every day. Whatever it lands on, Dr. Saundra, that's the love language you practice giving away. So what this did for me is provide a focus now every single day, provided that purpose. On purpose, I'm choosing to love every single day. And this is the theme. Whatever you roll that day, that's the theme for the whole day. And you just focus on that. While you're focusing on that, like I said, you can't look the other way. It only took me 30 days to step out of that box of criticism into a new box of what's right about that person. What can I love about that person? And expressing love all day long. And now what I'm watching for is when they light up. When they light up, I've discovered what their primary or secondary love language is. And no longer do I have to say, excuse me, could we pause this relationship for a moment while I have you take this survey so I know how to love you? It's a little awkward. I don't have to do that anymore. You just watch them light up. In fact, it's interesting how watching them light up is more accurate than the survey. There was a couple here in town that she took the survey, and the survey said she loves service. The guy is breaking his back, doing all these things for her. She's not loving. She's not feeling it. She's not responding at all. Once he rolls the dice and he gets to words and starts complimenting, all of a sudden, she lights up. And it just changed that relationship immensely by watching the body language of people that way. And so that's a story in a nutshell.
I love that. And it's so practical because, like you said, I think so many of us have gone through that process. And most of the time, the way it's set up, that particular framework is set up, is that it's a couple sitting down,
right,
figuring out what each other's love language is, and having the time to almost go through the book like a devotional to be able to use it and to apply it to each other. But there are so many other people who we are in relationship with and who we want to show love and appreciation and gratitude for, who it would be very weird to ask them, take this quiz so I can know how to love you best.
Yeah.
So I want to go into that a little bit deeper with some of these different types of relationships. So when we are, so for example, when you were mentioning this, one of the things that came to mind is that if you're a parent and you have children, multiple children, let's say, with different ages, different genders, chances are they don't have the same love language. They don't have the same way that they experience love. What have you seen? Just, I know you work with schools and work with parents and teachers related to this topic. What have you seen the role of really the lack of love and how people need to experience it affecting this current generation?
I think it's really detrimental that people aren't feeling love, and it's really important. What I found, Dr. Sandra, for me, and it will work for children. Children are very quick learners, very quick. I'm old, and I'm not as surprised as I used to be as at learning things that are brand new. But they're children very malleable, and they can learn those new things and implement it quickly, very quickly. In fact, I tested this with a family of 5 children. The youngest was 4 years old one day. And in that family, while they were testing it, each individual in the family rolled their own theme for the day. They owned it. They owned what they rolled. That's what they rolled. That's how they set it up, which was perfect. One day, the 4-year-old rolled physical touch, and he's jumping up and down. Yes, physical touch. Immediately, he goes to beats up on his brothers. Apparently, the brothers did that, and he thought that was the way they expressed love. But the mother starts trying to suppress all the laughter that she did not expect that, for that 4-year-old to take it to heart and know exactly what physical touch was. So, trying to suppress the laughter, she said, "No, son, this would be an appropriate way to express physical touch to your brothers. You can do a high five, a fist bump, create a fancy handshake that has 5 or 10 steps to it. You can do the chest bump, or you can do the hug. You can do all those things. Those are appropriate. Hitting's not one of them." And so it became a teaching moment for that family. The whole family was right there. The whole family witnessed it because they rolled the die together. And when he jumped up and was humping his fist, said, "Yes, physical touch," they all saw it. And so it was a teaching moment for the whole family, teaching the critical things. What I found, Dr. Saundra, through the first 30 days I was doing it, I found myself learning all 5 love languages by giving it away. That's very important for that, because if you're a couple and you're just telling your significant other that this is the way I like to be loved, it's like asking that person, "Will you feed me tacos every day, all 3 meals a day, every day for the rest of my life? Will you do that for me?" And we change a little bit. We alter that a little bit. And we want to surprise people a little bit. In that type of situation, becomes more of a transaction and duty. And you don't want to ever get to the whiny voice that says, "I told you what my love language is. Why aren't you doing it?" And you don't want to ever get to that point. The best way is just to send it out. My wife doesn't roll the die, but she loves to figure out, what's he doing today? How is he sending out love today? And she's watching and just enjoying that as part of what we do. And she enjoys all the different types of love. You'll want gifts on your birthday. You'll want gifts on Christmas. You'll want to spend time. She's a person that loves to spend time. And the way she likes to spend time with me is to watch Korean dramas. You ever watched the Korean drama?
I have not.
You have to speak Korean, or you have to read the words. There is no talking. You just sit there, you read the words. That's how she likes to spend time. We're just there together, watching this, experiencing this Korean drama together. They're great. I love Korean dramas. That's how she prefers to spend time.
That's very interesting, because I think having that 6th part of the die be surprise me,
Mhm.
it lets you choose the one that you feel either way. It could be the one that you feel like you are most comfortable expressing, or the one that you need to work on because you don't know how to express. And so you're going to go deeper into that one. Gives a little bit of freedom in that regard. I know for some people, when they are thinking about love, and even the five love languages, how to express love and all those things, it's not something that they know how to easily extrapolate over into a workplace or a non-family setting. Does this have any significance in, let's say, if you're a leader leading a team?
Absolutely. And thank you for that question, Dr. Sandra. This is almost a redefinition of love, the way I'm sending it out. This is a decency. And remember, I created this as a single person. So it's a decency toward all mankind. If you're an individual, it doesn't matter whether you're gay or Republican or Democrat or straight or that you have purple hair, or doesn't matter. Does your color of skin does not matter. Nothing matters that way. If you are a person, you are deserving of love. Everyone is deserving of love. It erases all those labels, Dr. Saundra, which is really important. So it just is a decency toward another person, just being kind, just sending it out there all the time without any expectation of it ever coming back. But when you light somebody up and you make their day, there's a payday for you. You get a great feeling for helping someone have a better day. That's it. Plus, that love that you are putting in the bank, so to speak, is going to come back and bless your life at some point in time. Don't watch for it. Don't wait for it. Expect it to happen, because it's like the law of the harvest or the law of attraction or karma. All those are about the same, that whatever you send out is coming back to you. Why would you send criticism out? It's coming right back. And I realized that in my midlife crisis, I realized, oh, if I'm critical of them, guess what's going to happen to me? They're going to turn right around. It's coming right back my way. And just, I said, oh, and it's not something I ever thought about as a child, that what I send out is going to come right back to me, because I kept being critical. And it just still, I didn't have that wake up moment until that midlife crisis.
Yeah, I think sometimes we don't think about that, the concept of sowing and reaping as it relates to our words and our actions, how that's going to affect things in the future. That makes me think about one of Dr. Chapman's books that is probably less popular, but it's on the same topic, is called God Knows My Love Language. And taking that same concept and extrapolating it into a spiritual conversation as it relates to our relationship with God and love, and how we experience his love in our lives. So I love how you shared that, because I believe the heart of God is to love everyone. They're not judging people in the sense of, I'm not going to love you because you're in sin. That's how all of us got saved. We were loved in our sin. And that is what the grace of God that brings us out of wanting to live a different type of life. So I love that. I want to go a little bit deeper into some of that concept, however, related to when it is people that you are not in like a family, or like you're not going to hug them or kiss them or any of the other kind of physical touch kind of things, or maybe you're not even giving them specific gifts. What are some ways that if you're a leader and you have a team that you want to show appreciation to, what are some tangible ways to show some of these different types of love?
Good question, Dr. Saundra. And people that like gifts, like awards, they would like that to know that they've done a really good job. And so awards would be a great way to express love in that way. People that like service would want help with the project. So maybe as a leader, you'll assign someone to help them with a project. They want somebody to help serve them in that particular way. Talking about a work situation. People that like words, you need to keep stroking them, keep complimenting them on the good things they do. Try not to focus on those things that they do wrong, but instead of saying something critical, say, how about if you try it this way? What do you think the result might be? And let them choose to try it a different way. Or may I give you some advice? And just make sure that you're asking for permission. Even though you're the leader, ask them for permission for you to give them another idea, something that might help them along their way. For somebody that likes the touch, you might do a pat on the back or the fist bump, the high five. That's probably sufficient for what they would want, especially in a work type place. You can't do those other things like hugging or kissing unless you're working as a couple. Maybe you could do that as if you've got a family business, or even if it's family business, maybe that's part of the culture that you do hug and you do that sort of thing, and it's just part of the culture of the business. For time, you might want to just sit down as a leader with that employee and just map out maybe a plan. This is how I would like to see this happen. This is the task. This is our steps that I see. Is there anything else that you could see that might help this move this project along. And just take the time to make sure that they understand what the ramifications of or the benefit of the project, whatever you're assigning them to do, make sure they understand that and just take the time to do that. Those are all ways that you can express love in a workplace. In any other situation, it's probably much of the same. But the workplace is more toned down, especially as far as the physical touch goes. It's just, you can be in jail if you do a lot of things that you would in a romantic sense. And I want to bring that up too, that this really is not a romantic sense. It's different than Dr. Chapman's solving of those problems was he had couples as a Baptist pastor. He had couples come into him and the husband would say, I'm sending her love and she's not seeing it. And she would say, I'm sending him love, but he's not seeing it. And they were like ships in the night. What this does by learning all 5 love languages, it gives you now the eyes to see it. It ups your literacy level of love that you know all 5 love languages. And that's where you get the title, Love Language Linguist. It's not proprietary. I'm going to give it away as soon as you learn all the love languages by giving it away. You can put it on your resume, become that love language linguist. When you go to that employer, the employers say, what the heck is a love language linguist? And you're going to say, I just love people. They want their customers loved, and they want a loving environment rather than a hostile environment within the workplace. Your resume should rise to the top if you put that on your resume. But you got to learn to be able to recognize it. What do people like? And just for that person, when they light up and you're giving that love away that day, for those people that do light up that particular day and the genre that you're practicing that day, you just take a mental note and watch, rinse, repeat for that person.
We've been chatting today with Paul Zolman, the author of Role of Love. And I want to, before we conclude our time together, one of the things that I think that really stood out to me is how you use this as a tool, not just in the aspect of learning how to love people better, but one of the things you talk about that it can also be a tool for resolving conflicts once we understand the root of emotional disconnections. And so can you go a little bit deeper into that?
Sure. Love, I like to talk about it this way, Dr. Saundra. The other day I was out walking, found this walking stick. It has no bark on it at all. One side of it's very smooth. The other side it has a little pokey things where something was chopped off, maybe a branch or something, but it would be sharp. I call this the naughty side of the stick, play on words there, and this the nice side of the stick. It's kind of stick that Santa Claus has that determines whether you're going to get your gifts or not at Christmas time. But take, for example, a couple of words. Take selfish, and then what would be an opposite? Selfish would be on the naughty side of the stick. Selfless or unselfish would be on the opposite side of the stick. Put it all on a table, what would you choose? Most people want to be selfless or unselfish. They want to help other people. Take another word, take being sarcastic. It's on the naughty side of the stick. What would be the opposite? You're going to look at words like genuine or authentic or true blue. Put all those on the table, what are you going to choose? Most people will be wanting to choose that authentic. And I think in that same way that it's going to go deeper and that's going to become who you are. That's where we want to be. This helps you be that loving individual. You talked a little bit about God and about Jesus a little bit. I want to just say that Dr. Chapman, being a Baptist pastor, said that each one of these love languages reconciled to the life of Jesus Christ. He spent time with people. He served people. We love his words. He touched people's eyes so they could see, their ears so that they could hear, and he practiced the gifts of the Spirit. All the love languages reconciled to the life of Jesus Christ. If you are a Christian, you may want to use this tool to become more like Jesus Christ. Send out love. By doing that, you're stacking kindness on top of kindness on top of kindness to get to the higher laws of love. Just like I was talking annoyance and having the flash of anger, this will stack kindness on top of kindness to get to compassion and charity and forgiveness and mercy and trust. Those are all higher laws of love. Use these love languages as the basis, as the stair steps to get to those higher laws of love. That's going to help you be a better person.
Yes, that's so good. Thank you so much for sharing. I want to make sure people know how to get in contact with you and how to get a copy of the book. So, what is the best connection point?
Best connection point, thank you for that, Dr. Saundra, is rolledlove.com. I did a play on words. If you roll the dice outside you, ROLL, but the change that happens within you is ROLE. So it's ROLE of love.com. And you'll find a book, you'll find a journal, you'll find the dice right there.
Excellent. We'll link to the website in the show notes, as well as link to the Amazon page where you can find the book, which is also in Kindle and audiobook version, as well as to Paul's Instagram site so that you can stay connected with all the different things that he's doing. Thank you so much for being a guest today.
Thank you, Dr. Saundra. It's been my pleasure.
Until next time, everyone, live fully, love boldly, and rest intentionally.